Hi, Stephen here for the Idiot Quilter, and here's another interview in my series of interviews with subscribers. Enjoy!
Got it. There we go.
Okay. All right. Well, welcome, Johan, to my little interview series here on the Idiot Quilter. And
Thank you.
we're going to find out where you're from and the things you do, because you do stuff that's a little bit different from what most quilters would think of when they think of quilting. So
Yep.
now I'm going to ask you to say your full name because I can't pronounce your last name correctly.
Well, my full name is Johan van Berkel, but since I live in Australia, it's pronounced usually as Van Berkel, which is fine.
Okay. And of course, you've already anticipated what I was going to ask you next is, I know you're from Australia, but what part of Australia do you live in?
I live in the southeast, southeast, and that's Victoria, and it's about 3 hours from Melbourne.
And I've been to both of those places. So I've been to Australia 3 times. Absolutely love Australia. And I've seen pretty much everything from coast to coast to coast around there. But anyways, it's not about me. It's about you.
Well, you've probably seen more than I have because I've only seen Victoria myself. So
you know, that's often the way. When you live there, you don't see it. When you go as a tourist, you see everything.
Exactly.
Now I guess too, what time is it for you right now?
1 o'clock in the morning.
And it's 11 o'clock in the morning here. So it's 1 o'clock in the morning tomorrow from me.
Exactly. So, I'm in your future.
Yeah, you're in the future. So here we go. Another first. I have someone from Australia and I have somebody from the future. Okay, yeah. So how long have you, well, first of all, do you quilt?
I do. Not as long as I've been sewing as such, but I have been quilting for about, I would say, 5 years.
Okay. But
increasingly so, increasingly so, because I've become more enthusiastic about it. The more I learn and the more I do it, the more I'm into it.
Right. And then, of course, you do sewing, and I know, and we're going to talk about them in a bit, about your bears, but do you sew garments or things like that?
Yeah, I do. And actually, I haven't done that for very long either. But I started making shirts, and to my surprise, I was actually really good at it, and even including things like buttonholes and the colors. And the first shirt that I made was instantly a success. So I definitely want to do more of that as well.
Yeah. So then how did you get started in sewing?
It was I think about 10 years ago that I started sewing seriously. And it was simply because just while browsing online, I found this pattern of a bear, a teddy bear, very simple one that, you know, the arms and legs couldn't actually move. It was a very straightforward sewing pattern. And I just thought, I'm sure I could do that if I tried. And I've made a few of those, and that's how it got started, really.
Okay, so was there anyone in your family that sewed and influenced you?
Definitely my mother. In the 70s, when I was a small boy, she did a lot of that because she didn't do any work outdoors yet. She did in the 80s and 90s, but in the 70s, she was very much the traditional housewife.
Right.
And she did a lot of sewing and knitting, and she made lots of clothes for us. And I was always very interested in what she was making, and always asked her to teach me. And usually she would just say, it's too difficult for you, or I don't have time for that. But in the end, she did show me a few things how to do them. For instance, I remember very well that she tried to teach me how to knit. And after a while I actually got the hang of it, and I really enjoyed embroidery at some point. But I think that lasted only about 2 years, and then I just gave up because I was more interested in other stuff then.
Right. Yeah, I tried my hand at knitting. I sucked at that. I did crochet for quite a few years because my grandmother taught me how to do that. But I got bored with making Afghans and that. And then I kind of let it all drop, and I got involved with, you know, other crafts, scrapbooking and things like that. And then suddenly there was quilting. And I've never looked back. Okay, so what's your favorite creation and why? Do you have something that stands out?
the cliche answer, I suppose, would be the last thing I made. It's always the last thing I made, which is my favorite thing because I'm the most enthusiastic about it. But actually, we already talked about the shirts that I've been making. And this is the very first one that I made. So I'll just show you. Because I've always wanted a really good Hawaiian shirt. And I could never find a proper one with a pattern that I like. So I found this fabric. And it's the first one I made, and it instantly was a success. So I think this is my favorite piece that I've made.
Okay, well, that's a great looking shirt. My husband makes shirts too with it. So in fact, I'm wearing one of his today. But
yeah, but your husband's really good at them, though. He's got the real knack for it.
Well, yeah. See, I have no desire to learn how to sew garments at all.
Well, you should try it, because once you've succeeded in making a shirt, you'll be so proud of yourself. You just want to make more.
Well, maybe that's true. I just don't want to be better than he is.
No, probably.
I don't think it would happen.
Other stuff anyway.
He'd be definitely picking out my mistakes. So speaking of your creations, I've got some shots here. I'm just going to put them up on the screen of your bears because they are so interesting. So can you see that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
These were my own design. They're cats, and I just made them. I should probably say how big they are. They're about, I would say, 18 inches each. And I have this friend who has a second-hand shop, but they also sell new stuff. And I put them in her shop, and they sold out within, I don't know, 4 days or so.
Okay.
And because each one is unique, there's not a single one. I made more than these, but they're all different. And they're sort of patchwork cats. And I just really enjoyed making them. And I just made them one day. I'm not even sure why or what the motivation was, but I really enjoyed making them. And I think because up till then, I was just making bears all the time. And I just wanted to see if I wanted to could make some other stuff. Plus, as you can see, there's a lot of different fabrics happening there.
Yeah.
And so I was getting rid of my stash also. It was a way to get rid of all the leftovers.
And so you made all of these, they weren't from a pattern. You made your own pattern for it.
Yeah, because by then I had made enough bears and other creatures that I could sort of start developing my own designs, because they more or less all work the same in the end.
Right. So let's take a look at some of your other ones here. The wedding couple.
These one are actually, you can't tell by the picture itself, but they're actually miniatures.
Oh,
they are tiny, tiny, tiny. And I made them for a friend who actually commissioned them for her wedding. And they were cake toppers. So they were actually set on top of the cake. But I actually thought, I won't make her pay for it. I'll just give them as a wedding gift.
Right.
And that was about probably 8 years ago or something. And she even recently sent me a message saying that she still looks at them all the time because she's so fond of them.
Yeah, well, they are.
And I really enjoyed making them.
And really quite the detail in that size in there. I mean, you've got patience, I can tell you that. And this looks interesting.
Normally I don't, but in that case I did, yeah.
So this one I'm assuming is a Christmas wreath?
It is, and that's also my own design. I was just fooling around with little miniature bears again, and put little angel wings on them, and that's
cute.
what I made. Yeah, it's nice. It turned out nice.
And this little guy, he's one of my
favorite bears. Yeah, he's one of my favorites.
Yeah. So what is that? I assume it's fake fur of sorts.
Yeah, it's faux fur. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've just never really seen any in that particular kind of design. But then again, I haven't been looking either. So, and this guy,
because normally you wouldn't even find that kind of fur in a shop. You really have to go to specialist online shops.
Okay. And then this guy,
quite a few actually. Yeah.
And this one's cute.
Yeah, he's nice, isn't he?
Reminds me of my cat, which is no longer with me. And this guy, he's cuddly.
Yeah.
And I love the bow on his neck too.
I always try to give him a little different accent.
I think I'm
this
sideways.
Is one of the bags that I made.
Yeah.
I made quite a few bags, but this is only one of the few ones that I actually photographed. So that's why I'm showing it, because it's sort of an example of the kind of other things that I make as well.
Yeah, and that fabric is kind of fun too.
Yeah.
Another bear. Here he is.
Another bear.
Okay. And these two.
These are denim bears. They're made from bits and pieces of denim.
Now, did you?
So it's a variation from all the fur.
Yeah. So did you? Was the denim fabric you bought, or was it from, say, an old pair of pants or something like that?
Both, actually. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And I think that takes us to the end here. So I just have to get myself back on here. Here we go.
There we go.
Okay, I don't know what that is. Okay, so I take it that we can both be seen now, and that's off the screen. Okay, so my next question for you is, so what type of sewer or crafter would you call yourself? I mean, are you traditional, modern, or experimental? How would you characterize yourself?
All those things, all those categories, all of them. I pick and choose from all types of styles, and I don't have a preference for any of them. But if I would have to choose one, it'd be experimental, because I like to try new things out, and things that are off the beaten path, and things that are not predictable. More so as I get older, I suppose.
Right.
So yeah, if it comes to categories, I would be pretty much more experimental, I suppose.
Yeah, well, I would say you are, because your creations are so unique. So I know you don't have really a specific area, because you kind of told me this, but I'm going to make you describe it anyways. Where do you do all your sewing?
Well, if I sew in the machine, which is not that often, because I'm actually a hand sewer most of the time, especially when it comes to the bears. I make them all by hand.
Oh, okay.
When I'm behind the machine, I have this tiny sewing table that sits in one of the bedrooms. But we're in a tiny house here. This is a tiny house, and there's no extra room for anything. But since I do sew a lot by hand, I can pretty much sit anywhere I like. I can sit on the couch, sit on the bed. So most of the time that's the case, that I just sit somewhere with all my fabrics around me and just pick a spot somewhere. Sometimes even in the garden when it's summer, when it's nice out.
Right.
But I do wish that I would have an extra actual sewing room.
Yeah, well,
that'd be really nice.
I think everybody would like that. I'd like that too, but
yeah,
I don't. But I do have a little different setup from you. But okay, so what's your favorite tool or technique? Now, you say you're a hand sewer, which I admire greatly, because I am all thumbs when it comes to hand sewing. And I didn't even think about the fact that your bears might be hand sewn. I was just jumping in my mind, they were machine done. So what's your favorite tool? What can't you live without when you're doing your creations?
It's actually a little tiny tool, which I've lost at the moment. I've actually lost it for the last couple of weeks. I can't find it anywhere. It's a tiny little brush. It's like a square little brush. And it's used to, when you sew fur together, lots of the fur gets caught in the seam usually. And it's a little brush that takes out the fur out of the seams. And so the seams become more and more invisible the more you take the fur out. And that's the little tool that I love the most, and I've lost it. I don't know where it is. I'll have to order a new one somewhere, because
maybe it's inside a bear.
Yeah, that's possible. You don't know. Yeah.
So that takes me to, if you had all the money in the world, what one piece of equipment would you invest in?
Oh, that's a hard question, but because it would also mean that I would need a lot more room. Probably a long arm, proper long arm machine, probably. Because that's what we all want in the end, I suppose. Yeah,
I'd want one too. But so does that mean that when you made your quilts, you're quilting them on a domestic machine as well?
Yeah, but from now on, I will just send them off to be quilted. Because it's actually, even though I live in a very small town, there's about 3 or 4 people who offer their quilting services, and there's one across the road even. So I'm definitely going to try them out and see how that goes.
Yeah, kind of convenient for that, eh?
Yeah.
That's nice. Okay, so I'm just looking here at my questions because I've lost my spot. Oh, yeah. Have you ever belonged to a guild or an online group or something that you go to regularly that deals with your form of sewing or art or quilting?
No, not at all. The only what you could call a group, I've done it like 2 or 3 times, is that I join a sew along kind of quilting group.
Yeah,
that is a temporary group for people who just make the same quilt at the same time.
yeah,
And I'm in one right now. But as for, because there's lots of Facebook groups and all that, and I have joined a few, but I don't really post on any of them or really interact with any of them.
right.
Not sure why, but yeah, I just don't really, I never really feel that they're on my same wavelength.
Right. Yeah, I know what you mean. I have not had a good experience with guild lately, so
Yeah.
I stay away from it. But I, like you, I belong to a couple of Facebook groups as well, and so that feeds my need for, because sometimes it's just fun to sew with other people.
Sure.
Too. And I find I get more productive when I do that as well. So
True.
that brings me to my next question. And so, for your supplies and materials, do you have a favorite store or a favorite online facility you go to?
Yeah, there's a chain of stores in Australia called Spotlight.
Yeah, I know.
And they sell a lot of fabrics and upholstery things, but it's not that varied. They cater to the most common things that you would need as a sewing person. So I do go there for most of the basics. But when it comes to, for instance, my faux fur, the fur that I buy, I always buy that online from specialists. And, the fabrics I usually buy online as well, most of the fabric.
Yeah.
But I don't have a particular store. I just usually look for, I would probably have something in mind, some idea of what I want, and then just look at different stores and compare prices, of course, and all that. So yeah, sometimes I will order things from America, and sometimes I'll order things from Australia. It just depends.
Yeah. Now you say you order some things from America, and that, do you find the shipping costs really high?
Yeah, especially the last year or so, they've really gone up.
Yeah, that's
and
what
it's
I figured.
even so that because I sell most of my bears, and I've always had a lot of commissions from America. That has sort of dried up because the shipping is almost as much as the bears cost.
Yeah,
and it's become ridiculous.
Yeah,
and it's a real shame because I'm sure it has stopped a lot of commerce and a lot of people ordering from different countries and all that. So I don't think it's in anyone's benefit that they've done that they've raised all those prices.
Yeah, no, I agree. It has, and getting stuff, even for us here in Canada, ordering stuff from the States, I try not to, because it takes forever to get here. And even just coming from the United States to Canada, it's astronomical what they're charging for shipping. So if I can't get it on Amazon, I don't, or a Canadian store.
I know, it's just not worth it.
Yeah. So that takes me then down to, so do you have any favorite experts or sources of information or assistance when you're looking at things?
No, I'm like a magpie. I just like to pick and choose and just browse online. And of course, YouTube is a continuous source of new ideas, and people, also a lot of crap. There's a lot of crap on it as well. You have to wade your way through it all.
Yeah.
But there's some really good things on there as well. And it will also show you things that you haven't thought of before, or things you haven't done before, or make you enthusiastic about trying something new. So I would say the main source for that would be YouTube. Really.
And while we're talking about YouTube, you do have a YouTube channel. So
I do.
What's your YouTube channel called? And just give us a description of what it's all about.
It's called GoAheadandMakeMe. And it's mainly smaller projects that don't take an eternity to finish. Sort of between beginner and medium level, I would say, in difficulty. yeah, just little projects that you can make that maybe you haven't thought of before, or things. I always really invite people to make their own versions of what I'm presenting. I don't necessarily want them to copy exactly what I'm making, but put their own slant on it or whatever. Just want to stimulate people's creativities, really.
Well, you kind of inspired my husband, because I think you were making a hat.
Yeah.
And he decided that he wants to do that. So he's got the fabric. He hasn't started it yet, but he wants to give it a try as well. So yeah, and I like watching your videos too, because I like your approach. You if you make a mistake or something doesn't work out, you go ahead and tell us about that. It's you know, because there's so many YouTubes out there that they make everything look like it's the first time they've done it, it came out perfect every time. Well, we both know that doesn't happen.
That's not how life works.
No, and I think that those kind are intimidating to people who might be starting out. You know, they think, "Oh, I'll never be that good or do something like that." So, yeah. Now, what I was going to ask next is, do you have any challenges or goals for the future in terms of projects you might like to do? You know, kind of like the bucket list idea.
Yeah. I've only recently started experimenting with making my own patterns for patchworks. I've just finished one of a koala, because I was looking for a nice patchwork piece with a koala on it, and I couldn't really find one. I mean, there are a few out there, but they're all either too simplistic or I just didn't like the look of them.
Right.
And so I just tried my hand on making one myself, and it actually turned out really nice. Haven't quite finished it, but it will be up on my next episode, because my next episode will be about koalas, so it'll be on there.
Right.
And that's something that I really am interested in developing, in actually making my own patchwork patterns and sharing them with other people.
So this one that you're just finishing up now, are you going to be selling that somewhere, or will it just be available from your...
This first one, I just don't think it's suitable. It's not good enough yet. I mean, I was able to make it, but I don't think it's user-friendly enough. I think it's still, it needs a lot of, the rough edges would need to be shaved off first. And yeah, someone professional needs to look at it first before I could put it into the world.
Out there for the fight. Yeah. Well, that'd be something though. I would think there's definitely a market for that. And, you know, coupled with the pictures of what you've already shown, I could see a lot of people really wanting a pattern to learn how to make one of those. I'd give it a shot. So I've never made one before, but I'd give it a shot. And the koala one, I definitely would be interested in. Just a couple of more questions here to finish up with. So how would you describe yourself as an artist? Because I think sometimes people get the idea that just because you quilt or you make stuffed animals or you sew, you're not an artist. And I disagree with that completely. I think we're all artists. It's just the medium is a little different. So how would you describe yourself as an artist? I know you're kind of experimental. So are you the kind of person, I guess, who's more into the process than the finished product, or vice versa?
I think definitely I'm more interested in the process. The finished product is nice for about 5 minutes, but then I want to move on to something else.
Yeah, know the feeling.
I think I'm also, what's the expression? A jack of all trades, but master of none.
Right.
I feel that I've got my fingers in lots of pies, but I don't think I really excel in any of them. And I don't mind that, because it's nice to have a broad field where you can choose from and develop this, and then, you know, leave that for a while and then develop something else. And yeah, I'm sort of happy with that.
Yeah, right. I get that idea too. Yeah, I'm the same. It's sort of like squirrel. I'm working on this project, but I see this one over here. I have to hold myself back, or I'm going to have a lot of UFOs. I already have a lot of UFOs on that. But yeah, the same thing. And if it's a new technique or something, I'm kind of interested. I want to learn more things. Yeah. So for me, it's the process too, as opposed to the final product. Although the final product is nice to have done too.
Of course.
So my last question for you is, if anybody who wants to get started in sewing or even making stuffed animals or things like that, what advice would you give them?
I would say just choose your own path. Of course, listen to people who've done it before and who are more experienced than you, but go your own way. And what the most important thing is that it stays fun. As soon as it starts feeling like a chore or something like, oh, I have to finish this before I can do that, or oh, I really have to finish this, but I don't really feel like it, don't finish it. It has to be fun. If it's not fun, why are you doing it? Exactly. It has to be fun. That would be my main message, really.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a very good message. Yeah, if it becomes a chore, why do it?
Exactly.
So don't be even. I apply that philosophy to projects. I get into a project and I'm finding I'm just not liking this anymore. Don't be afraid to walk away from it or turn it into something else. So, well, I want to thank you so much for agreeing to do this, because I know it's so much later where you are for that. So you probably want to go to bed, but I'm just going to finish this off by saying thank you so much for doing this. And if you don't mind, I'm going to stop the recording part now, but stay on the line. So again, thank you very much, Johan. And what's the name of your YouTube channel again, so people can check it out?
It's called Go Ahead and Make Me.
Okay. And I'll put that.
And it's also on Instagram.
Oh, okay. And what's the Instagram? Same?
It's the same name. Yeah.
Okay. I'll put the link for those in the show notes.
Thank you, Stevens. Thank you for your time and for inviting me.
Oh, well, it was thrilling. Maybe someday I'll get back over to Australia, or you'll get to Canada and we'll be able to actually meet face to face. So I'm going to end the recording now.